So yeah, so I just kind of reiterate. So it's going to be a fully connected demonstration with my teammates here, Sandy Loader. I got Xander in the middle, and I have Andrew on the far left, and they'll play different roles throughout this presentation. So if you think about why we're doing this, it kind of says exactly what Ray was talking about. Like foresters as companies, we have lots of data. You can question the quality, yes or no, needs to improve, no question, but we have lots of data. The problem is that to Ray's point, and I think a lot of points making, it's siloed. It doesn't work well across applications, and frankly, the systems that got put in place in time, they were never meant to communicate. And also the technology that kind of a lot of us are using today really aren't designed to communicate. So this is where I think Grant was referring to in his presentation about having strong API layers. You need APIs, you need to be a modern architecture for be able to talk to different applications. So if you go to the next slide, or can I do that, Sandy? Do you know? Yeah. So what you'll see today is essentially a pathway to a fully connected system with all the applications that now are part of the Remsoft suite. You're going to see different applications for solving very different problems within that particular, across that value chain, and end-to-end visibility across that chain. That's just not working. You have to keep going. Yeah. So to set the stage, where we'll focus today, these are kind of the main activities, the way we look at it in terms of the things that we do on the forest today. I would argue that we're probably missing one. Inventory should probably be on there too, because that's a big activity in terms of capturing data and turning that into information. But for the most part, what we're going to focus on today is going to be that middle one. So, yep. Sorry, the middle one. So we're going to talk all about that harvesting and delivery to the final destination. And then what we're going to do today is that we made up a fictional forest, fictional company. So we'll introduce you to the Fundy Coast Land Company. It's a forest that's located in southwestern New Brunswick. It's about 120,000 hectares. So it's not a big company. It's not a big land base, but enough for us to work on. And of course, there's different districts, no different than how Ray organized an LPAC, but it's at a much different scale. This would be smaller than one of your FMUs, probably a 10th or even a 20th of one of your FMUs. So it's small, but it has they're doing all the things that we do managing a land base. And so again, for what we're going to be showing today, what we're going to be doing is that they're operating just like normal people operate. They're generating an optimized tactical harvest plan. We're pushing that plan into the planning process for it to follow all its way through, all its step through multiple steps in the process. We'll show you that, and then we're going to collect and manage all that data and all that connected data so we can report on it and use it for decision making. More specifically, we're going to take you through a process. This is the process. So the first step in the planning optimization, Sandy Loader is going to be taking this part. He's going to show you how we're going to generate a tactical plan, how that tactical plan then can push and publish into an FMS. In this case, it's going to be Stratus. Once we're in there, we can start doing some operational planning of those particular blocks. So making it more operational, realistic, updating the spatial attributes, those kind of things that you have to kind of clip out. From there, we're actually going to send out one of the blocks to a cruising app called Prism. So Xander's going to be simulating this in terms of collecting data into the field and how you're collecting that data in the field and how it comes back into the web app, compiling that data into a compiler cruise, which then flows back into the FMS. The next step of that, we're going to actually go into operational planning. So we're going to take that tactical schedule, which is now pushed into the Remsoft operations planning, which is more of a shorter term operational planning tool for wood flow. And of course, that's going to inherit all that data that's got collected in the field and all those geospatial aspects of that. So once that schedule is going to be revised, just like an operational plan, revised into some scenarios or some changes, then we're going to send out a unit to simulate it. We're going to send out a unit to a block where we can start actually tracking the telematics of the machines operating on that particular block. So we can bring that information back again into the FMS. Once we get the harvesting operations going on, the next thing that's going to happen is that there's going to be active blocks. From those active blocks, we're going to be creating deliveries from that particular block. And from that case, we're going to actually be simulating load tickets, and those load tickets coming across the way station and folding back into the overall business. So it's from the planning all the way through. That's the flow we're going to show. And on top of that, one more, Sandy, yeah, please, yeah. On top of it, very similar to what Ray was showing. On top of that, we can fold all this information, pull this all information into what we're terming right now as the Forest Intelligence Platform, which essentially is bringing all the information from all your different systems, and I'll get more into that. Then you can start reporting on all this information across all these different applications in one central hub. That's the story. So that's what we're going to show you today. So we're going to focus on one small area. So the North York District, it's got 2,400 units that are going to be scheduled tactically, so they've already been spatially defined. So these are the units we want to schedule over the next 5 years. It's about 10% of the volume. We got 3 harvest crews and again, 92 harvest units. And within this story we're going to be telling you about is there going to be multiple user personas. So people you'd expect to see that are managing different aspects of the forestry business, from district managers to harvesting managers to GIS people, data people, to marketers, to folks, transportation drivers, so all these different personas that you would actually identify with today in your business. The other aspect of the demonstration that we're going to do is that the team is going to follow the life cycle of 2 particular units, and we'll keep going back to this, so we'll keep going back to these units. So you'll see the trace of these units through all the different steps in the process. Unit number 1, activity number 1, that is the Bonnie River 1000 block. This is one that's going to be planned. Okay, so you're going to see it being planned in the optimization. You will see it being pulled into the FMS. You're going to see a new inventory generated that from the cruising, and you're going to see the operational scheduling of that particular block. On the right-hand side, you're going to see Sealy Lake 1003. That block is an active block, so you can see how that's managed and treated in the optimization, because it is active, so you got to make sure that's being respected. You're going to see how it's going to be in the operational scheduling, and of course the machine telematics, and this is where we'll start creating load tickets from this particular block. So the idea is that we'll keep the story together by, hey, remember this block, remember this block, remember this block. So we'll trace these blocks through time. So why is it important to follow this process? Well, I think it's been stated enough already in terms of why we're doing this, so I'm not going to beat it to death. But you know, in terms of the planning, the value is created by making sure if you're doing the optimization planning, you're creating these plans for sustainability and for looking at the whole landscape. It's really important you follow that plan. So, and if that plan's not being followed, you're already off track, right? So you could be losing value because of it. And we also know that every decision that in the process affects the next decision downstream. So if the information is not flowing or it's not correct, things are going to get offline in that case as well. And of course, we all know that in the forestry world, things are going to be changing. They change every minute, almost, especially in the times we're living in right now. It's changing a lot. So it's being able to show agility in the planning aspect as well. So that's really important. All right, so to help you keep the story together, because we're going to tell the story over our next couple of hours, showing a number of things, we've designed it in a way into a number of chapters. I won't take you through all the chapters right now. I'll take each through as we go to each chapter, but it'll just kind of tell you where we are in the process, just as a reminder, so you don't get lost, because there's going to be a lot of things thrown at you. So we'll keep it centered that way. So we'll start with chapter 1 right now. And chapter 1 is the tactical optimization in FMS. And beside me is Sandy Loader. He's going to be playing a number of personas in this particular chapter. He's going to be doing the optimization, so we'll call him the planning forester or the optimization analyst, whatever you want to call you, creating the plans. And then he's going to actually step in and he's going to start working as the GIS planner or the GIS analyst and the kind of the wood flow manager. So he's playing a multiple number of different hats in this particular scenario. He's going to be running a tactical optimization model. So we'll see this in the Woodstock Next Gen, which I'll say a couple things about before I give over to Sandy. He's going to take those results, he's going to push that into FMS. In the FMS, once he's in the Stratus application, he's going to look at those blocks and he's going to make some modifications to operation of those blocks, and he's going to assign an activity for cruising. So that's what you're going to see. Those are the use cases that he's going to show today. So before I give it to Sandy, one thing I want to say is that you're going to see for the Woodstock modeling people out there today, so Sandy's going to be presenting this in what we're calling as Woodstock Next Generation. So we've been started the project several years ago. So redeveloping Woodstock, what you see today and what you work with today, into a newer system. So newer look, newer feel, newer kind of user interface, fundamentally the same, but a different work experience. And so you're going to see that for the first time today. Sandy's not going to take you on a big tour, but he's going to give you at least a little bit of orientation. And if you're interested in learning more, Mary-Eve is going to be presenting tomorrow, so she can tee you up even further. And also she's in the back hallway if you want to see more on that. So on that note, I think, Sandy, So over to you.
Okay, so for those of you that are used to the old Woodstock, this is the new generation optimization environment. Like Doug said, Mary Ev is around for the next couple of days. If you want to have a chat with her about what's in here, the workflows are a little bit different that I'm going to show today, but the end result is going to be the same, right? It's an optimized schedule. So earlier today, Kevin said that everyone in the room is wearing two hats. And today I'm going to wear two. Well, three. I guess I'm still technically a sales engineer with Remsoft. But in this part of the demo, I'm going to wear two. So the first hat is a forest planner. Like Doug said, I'm going to run the tactical model over 5 years, make some adjustments based on a scenario that we've kind of worked into to the model, and then kind of put my GIS hat on and kind of operationalize those blocks and then pass that over to Xander, and he's going to take it from there. So as Doug mentioned, we're in the southern part of the province. And what you see here on the screen right now is the results of the last run that I did. So this is what we're kind of working under and planning around currently. So I think we're harvesting on the land base about 145,000 cubic meters per year, about that. And depending on, market conditions and productivity, we're harvesting about 450 hectares a year. So, minuscule compared to what Alpac is putting through. But hopefully, enough to give you a sense of, because the story is not about the model, the story is about the flow of the data from A to B or A to Z. So the first thing you're going to notice is that, we have very kind of slick mapping capabilities now in Woodstock Next Generation. And this is a snapshot of our operations in southern New Brunswick. The red dots here represent our customers. So we have Back Bay Pulp and Paper in the southern part of the province. We have Kedron Specialty Hardwoods in the northern part of the province. And then Southern Lumber Timber Products in the east. So those are the clients that we have obligations to supply products to. So as Doug said, we have 92 units in our tactical model. For those of you that have run Woodstock Strategic, so this would be the result of a long-term plan. You take the first few years of that model, and then that results are passed on to me for my role. And my role here is really to schedule these units over the next 5 years. In terms of species, we only have 3. It's pine, or sorry, leading species, pine, spruce, and mixed hardwood. And we've also introduced the concept of seasonality in this model. And one of the constraints that we have built in the model is that we want to have a kind of an even distribution of those winter blocks across the 5 years so that we don't end up with a year where we have just way too much winter harvesting. The products that we deliver to the customers are a combination of the leading species, and we have 3 sorts. So saw logs, studwood, or small saw logs that some of you might refer to, and then pulpwood. So that gives you, I think, enough lay of the land to have a sense of what's in the model and what we're trying to achieve here. But I've got some bad news. Back Bay, because of market conditions, has decided to shut down their hardwood line. And currently, we're sending about 20 to 25% of our volume to Back Bay. So this potentially could have a fairly big impact on our operations. Like day to day, this might change that we might have to send a crew to a different block. And it's going to, affect, the next years from 2 to 3 to 4. So I need to, guys, replan and then send that information over to the other people that will be looking at the data in the other applications. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make a new scenario. The sections in this scenario are the standard ones, and that is enough to complete what I'm trying to do here. So you can see now I'm working in the back bay hardwood scenario. The first thing I have to do then is I need to update the constraints that I'm working with, and basically saying that you can't deliver any hardwood pulp or stud wood to back bay. So I've updated the database surrounding this model. So I need now to update the model sections themselves. So the objective here is to maximize the margin for the company, revenue minus cost. I need to update the optimized section, right, to reflect the hardwood scenario, and then simply click update, execute. Now my model is updated. Now it's ready to run. Boom. So Woodstock now has found a new solution. Now I want to understand what the impact is of the business is, given that we are, under a different, working environment here. So I want to take the base scenario and the one that I just made, and I want to look at two key indicators. So in terms of overall harvest volume, what we're, I guess, needing to supply our customers has been reduced about 37,500 cubes per year. And in terms of the dollar value, we're looking at $500,000 or a little more than $500,000. So, it's a substantial kind of hit and, causing a replanning for the company. So the first thing I have to do now, the scenario is what it is. So I have to get or prepare this data now for the next step in that planning process. And this is where I'll switch hats here in a little bit. So I want to go back to the maps, and I need to assign that schedule that I just generated to the maps. So in this model here, we're just doing some clear cutting. I want to send that the first 5 years or all 5 years of that model. Click on run. And you can see here that Woodstock had really good success in allocating that entire schedule to the maps. And I want to go back to the two stars of the show here. So I want to look at block S1000 and 1003. So 1003 is Sealy Lake. This is the active block. I'm going to close this down to get a little more real estate. Here we go. So really what I'm doing some gut checks to make sure that I did my job right. So 1003, it's scheduled in period 1. It's active. And we need, unless it's suspended or something, we need to maintain that. Pine stand, take a look at the indicators. The volumes are, what am I expecting? And then the other one that I want to have a look at is S1000. This is the Bonnie River 1000 block. I want to look at the data. It's a spruce stand, but 42 years old, 85 hectares. Now, to me, that it's classified as a spruce stand, but it's still a fairly high component of hardwood and pine here. So I think when I flip my hats, I might want to get some people in the field to verify those volumes to make sure that we're accurate in terms of, sending the correct volumes then to the next level of planning. The last step in the process in Woodstock is now I want to take the results of that model, and I want to publish that to our ArcGIS Online. So again, verifying that it's periods 1 to 5. I want to send the activity schedule and the delivery schedule. So the harvest schedule and the allocation plan. Publish, and hit the publish button. So what I've done basically is taking that, that spatial schedule that's on my laptop and I sent that to our ArcGIS Online. Now this is where I'm going to switch my hats. I'm going to flip over to Stratus. And this is where I'm going to, prepare that spatial schedule then for the next step in the planning process. So I'm working in the York management planning scenario. If I flip over to the activities tab here, this is the spatial schedule that I generated there a few seconds ago. You can see in Stratus, we do have some summary components here to give you some sense of what activities are being scheduled over the next 5 years. The activity by status, like we work in a very dynamic environment. We have harvest blocks or activities at all different stages of planning, from scheduled, planned, complete, active, draft. And this graphic here will give you a sense of, I guess, where you are and how much area do you have in each stage of that planning. And then we also have some financials here. So on the left-hand column here, we have actual dollar values, and on the right-hand column is the estimated. You'll notice that the estimated is quite a bit different than the actual, and that's just because that the estimated is taken into account all of the different planning stages, right? It's just a rough guess of how much it's going to cost to harvest the wood, or do the cruising, or et cetera. The actuals only come in when the unit is considered complete. So as we work through the next 3-4 years, those numbers are going to change, and you will see actuals get closer to the estimated. But I want to zoom into Bonnie River 1000. It's the same unit that I scheduled in Woodstock. But you notice here on the map that there's a road running right through the middle of the block with a nice little cabin down here in the eastern corner. So in order to correct the area, because we have to buffer that road, to be good, the good landowners and planning, we have to buffer that road. So we're basically going to reduce the area in that block, then that carries through then the other systems. So I'm just going to pop out the map here to get a little more real estate. And I'm going to, well, the first thing I want to do is I want to turn on the roads, the access roads here. And I want to use the spatial editing tools that Stratus has to basically buffer that road. So it's a buffer that's going to take away area. And it allows me then to use a spatial feature. I want to do a 20-meter buffer. So automatically now you'll see that the outline of that block has changed, and it will, once I hit apply here, you'll notice then that the buffer is taken right out of the harvest block. So here we are. So now we have a more operational valid unit that will be worked on in the next few steps here. I have one more task to do, and that is to set up the cruising activity for the volumes that I'm a little bit suspect of. So when I go back to the operational units, I forgot to do that step. I want to add an activity here. It's a timber cruise. No one's seen that. And that's my bad. I knew how to work around it, but the status, I'm going to set it as planned. And since that block is scheduled for next year, I want to get a crew in there as soon as I can. So I'm going to put the estimated start in there today, and it's probably going to take the crew about I think 2 weeks to do that. Click on save. Now if I go back to my activities, Again, no one saw that. I have two activities then for this Bonnie 1000 clear cut. So now the activity is there, it's ready, and as soon as I hit a plan, then it's ready then for Xander to take over and to get his crew up there to have a look at.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sandy. And so just to get back to the process, those first 3 steps are completed. We're going to go to the 4th step now. Just to kind of iterate in terms of like why does that even matter? In terms of what Sandy just said to me, there's a couple points there. I mean, number one, I'm a big advocate of optimization. I've been in the business for 20 some years, but that whole tactical planning space to me is super critical. It bridges that strategic and operational plan. It keeps you aligned. To me, this is where you can make or break your business by making good decisions and getting that pathward. This is where investment decisions are made. So I'm a big advocate of tactical planning. The second kind of part of all this in terms of the value creation is, again, it's just that data flow, that integration, the integration from information from your FMS and other systems directly into the optimization models, and then creating those schedules and putting them right back in. So having a nice integrated tight flow just makes things streamlined, easier to do, and just makes you more agile. So you can plan more often because you're working with relevant data or current data all the time. So that's a couple key pieces in there. Thanks, Tandy, for doing that. So we're going to go to the next step now. Let's just capture the inventories. And so Xander's going to take over this piece. Alexander Ryerson. I always think of you as Xander, but we'll call you Xander today. And it's the FMS and the cruising piece. So if we go to the next slide, Sandy, and I'll just tee up Xander really quick. Again, what you're going to see is that Bonnie River 1000. Sandy planned an activity and a date. That information is now going to be picked up, and Xander's going to pick that up in the web cruising environment. He's going to go out and do a cruise. He's going to simulate that cruise in a mobile app, and that data is going to be compiled and brought back into the system, into FMS. So Xander, I'll just give it to you.
All right, so I'm Xander Ryerson. Doug mentioned I'm the forest inventory analytics manager, resource analyst, GIS analyst. Like Sandy said, we're all wearing multiple hats, just like in real life. I picked up here in operational planning. Sandy had scheduled that. I can see there's a Bonnie River clear cut, Bonnie River timber cruise. But now that it's active or scheduled, getting ready to be active, I can come to the monitoring module here. Just like the operational planning module, it's got a similar look and feel with your target object component, your top left, summary in the middle, map on the right that pops out, and your table on the bottom. I'm going to go here. We've got all of our management units in here, but I want to go to New Brunswick, which will focus just on our York management planning scenario. And we can even go and look at specific statuses if we want, specific date ranges. And I just wanted to take a look and see, all right, well, we have this clear cut with that's scheduled, timber cruise that has been planned. It doesn't have any contractor or anything on it yet. So as the inventory analyst manager, I'm going to come and fill this out, get it ready for the field work. So first we can go and start filling in some details. So pick a method. We're doing some in-field site assessment. Of course, we can configure these things in settings for the different options that you choose. Okay, and we know we are starting this today. We had an estimated start date Sandy filled out. Since he is sitting right next to me, I know to get going on this right away. And now we also have our contractor that we want to assign. So we're going to give it to Blue Ox Forestry. And you see they're right away populated in that table. Okay, and we also have different views as well. If I want to look at only the inventory projects that are in here, there are currently, so the inventory projects that are in here, I'll take a look at the map as well, just to make sure I know where I'm going. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to flip over to the Prism web app. So here's where I'm going to take that scheduled activity and we'll prepare plots, a plot grid to take this offline. So we can configure here what the forms look like in the mobile application, what the different tables look like in the inventory report. And really what we want to do is get this inventory get this inventory project ready, collect it, and share it with, I'm going to go back because I don't want to come back to this page. So we have an inventory report. This is from all those different cruises that have been completed, currently in the York inventory management project. What we're looking at here is just a tree table. So this is information that's been collected on the mobile application, which I'm going to show you in a moment after we prepare the plots for offline use. But once that is collected on your cell phone, tablet, you synchronize that, it's offline in the field, synchronize it back to the office, and you'd look at a tree table such as this, where you can roll it up at the tree, plot, or stand level here. Just as an inventory analyst, I'm not really overly interested in all of the downstream operations. I'm more interested about the inventory itself. Okay, so I'll flip out of here. You can see we've got our various inventory projects that are completed already. And we're going to go and add to it. Again, similar to Stratus, we have different layer controls built on the ArcGIS system. So it's got a similar look and feel for what everybody's already used to. I'm just going to turn off the plots so you have reduce the clutter. What this shows are the different stands or activities that are already in a specific job. Okay, we have Bonnie River down here, and I'm just showing the method for adding, or the process for adding plots to the Bonnie River clear cut. Okay, and you can go and choose either plot density or spacing. And because it's just a quick check, because Sandy said, you know, we have some funny stuff going on with inventory, I'm going to keep the plot density down, 4 plots, or maybe, you know, increase it to 8. You can convert that to different units of measurement, add the plots, and it's giving me a warning saying, hey, there's already some plots or some stands underneath here. We could go ahead and apply those edits, but since we've got this prepared for offline use, I'm going to just move ahead and go to the mobile application here where we have the cruise jobs already downloaded. It's ready to go on the tablet. So what I would do as the inventory analyst manager, I'd hand this to the contractors and send them out. Because this is downloaded onto the tablet already, you can see what's been completed. We have those 4 that have not been visited in Bonnie River. There's one that needs, or is under review, one that has warnings and needs review. So I'll show you what that kind of looks like here. You can see the different colors of plots. So we've got that light green plot here. That's a dropped plot that's in the forest. There's also drop plots that are could be on the road. And you've got your not visited plots. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to dig into one that has tree data in it already. It's been completed just to show, and it doesn't have an assignee. So we'll go and assign it. It's got a forester, GPS types. You can pick, it's just your standard tablet if you're using a high precision, or if you're doing an EFI plot, as Ray had mentioned, enhanced forest inventory requires high precision. Okay, and then you have different information you can fill out with the warnings. Okay, and I'm going to go into the tree list here. And this is already been collected. We're just going to do like a quick review, but you can see there's areas that have red on them. It means that there's some warnings. And I'll just show you, rather than scrolling all the way down that tree list, I'll show you here. You can configure in the web application thresholds. So your data quality in the forest, making sure that what I'm giving Sandy is not going to be junk. And it gives that threshold, so I know, okay, this tree needs to be within that threshold. Okay, so it's just a in-field data collection solution where I'm going to take it out in the forest, collect it, gives me warnings, right? So if I ignore those, we can go back, and what I'll do, I'm going to update the status of this plot. Give it an assignee as well. And we'll keep our VAF. Now our status will be complete. All right. And once that's synchronized, we can flip back over to Stratus. And we've got this Bonnie River Timber Cruise where we can now go and say, all right, it is completed. Because that would take over 2 weeks, this would through various statuses. Sandy would be able to come in here into the monitoring module and watch it, or Andrew, who's getting ready to do or to schedule that operation downstream. They can see it being completed. So I will also go put that end date. Okay, so fast forward 2 weeks, we've now done our timber cruise. And we're going to go take a look at the inventory in the inventory management module. So I'm now back being the inventory analyst manager. The contractor let us know that the cruise has been completed, so I can go and do the office work. Of course, they could potentially do it here as well, but I want to keep control of that inventory. It's our asset, making sure that it's done correctly. And we've got so again, we're in the inventory management module, right? So we did the operational planning. Sandy then handed it over. We looked at active operations in the monitoring module, and now we've got our inventory. So once that comes into the system, again, we've got all those inventory projects in here. We can go take a look at different ones. I wanted to focus specifically on that Bonnie River. So I'm just going to pick some pre-canned filters here. I could focus on this one where it has the inventory has been collected, but it's not been imported yet. And as Ray had mentioned earlier, EFI, you can also calculate LiDAR EFI if you have that APRIDS module with Stratus. You just do that through here. But we're going to focus on importing it from Prism. And so I showed you that inventory report in the Prism web application. This will launch that, signs us in, and it's now going to go and search for that data that is in that cruise job. Again, we'll select that job that we showed you in that previous web app, and I'll select the export, and it flips me right back to Stratus. So we're only going in there, we're pulling that inventory data into Stratus, and then it gives you even that workflow. Foresters, as we've seen on all the slide decks, have those workflows, so making sure that it's guided. I don't really need to think too much, just walking through, doing the motions. Okay, so we're picking today, or we're fast forward on this part, so I'm gonna actually say it was inventory date of the 10th. Okay, and of course we have the different templates, right? If I was doing an EFI import, I could pick it to have the different field mapping. But we're doing a timber cruise from Prism, so I'm just gonna select that. It auto maps all the different data points that need to come in. It tells you what operational unit. We have an inventory type. This was just a quick timber cruise, and go and import it. And now we have inventory in the system waiting to go. We've also got our plot stats. Right? We've got now 3 not visited with the 72 completed, right? So we went and updated that status of that plot, and inventory is ready for downstream scheduling.
Thanks, Andrew. So the whole idea was just to show a workflow where information, I think you followed it from Stratus out to the Prism app, collect the data, bring it back in. And to me, that's the value. I mean, the value of cruising, well, we've always cruised, and there's different apps out there for collecting that data, but it's the workflow that really matters. It's the integration of that data and that workflow. And that's where the value is coming through. And of course, once you get better inventory in your system, that is going to make for better scheduling, which Andrew's going to show in a second. And the other point too that is kind of, I think, is exciting about it, because it's all built on top of the Esri platform, is that any spatial information that's collected out in the field as well through those apps, it's already brought back through as well. So if you have, some notes or something like that, they can be geo-referenced. So there's all that integration planning. So the next step in the process is we're going to be going to the operational scheduling, and Andrew's going to be operational scheduler or planner, however you want to refer to that someone. So again, what you're going to see in this particular scenario is that the information that got sent from Sandy's optimization plan got carried into FMS. That carries directly into Remsoft operations. So that gives anyone who's doing that operational scheduling, they're getting that guidance from that tactical plan, which is really clever. So the 2026 and 27.7 blocks are coming in, or maybe you're bringing them all in, Andrew, I forget, but So you got that. So what this allows Andrew to do as well is to quickly on the fly adjust this harvest schedule and the planning schedule for the wood flow and the annual basis, because he's planning out for the next 12 months. So he can actually adjust the schedule very quickly, and everything is connected from the harvesting plan to the delivery plan and all the inventory. So when you make a change, everything is recalculated throughout that whole supply chain. And so that's the connected nature within the application. And then from that, you can update the deliveries and those kind of things as well. So Andrew, I'm just going to throw it over to you and let you show what we're talking about.
I'll be doing my work today in Remsoft Operations. I'm filling the role of the operations manager as well as the timber marketer. This is our Remsoft Operations home screen, but I'm going to start my day in the maps. What we're seeing on the screen here now are the harvest units in Remsoft Operations, which were harvest activities in Stratus that have been integrated into the system. And I'm looking at 3 years worth of harvest units, 25, 26, and 27, based on the strategic year, which was assigned in Woodstock, and then came in with the harvest unit from Stratus. The coloring, the classification that I've got on the screen here is based on my operation status. Blue being my active units where I've got harvesters currently working, purple being complete, yellow not ready, and green ready. Those colors are going to come up a couple times throughout this. I want to add a little more information here. I know that I have a number of external layers that I can add to my maps, and I want to add my stream information just to help me with my day-to-day planning. And it didn't want to stay on. It's okay. I'll zoom down to my Bonnie River 1000. I can tell by the green color right offhand that it is a unit that's ready to harvest. We've already got that right-of-way buffer that Sandy built into it. That's been integrated in through our GIS, and I can click on this unit. I can do a couple things from clicking on it. I can see unit information coming out of Remsoft Operations. If I have any crew assignments, I could schedule the unit from right here. But what I want to do first is just take a look at that product mix on the unit. We've got a good mix of products, 9 different products, mostly coming in as hardwood pulpwood at this point. Let's take a look at our crew schedule. Go back to my home screen, and under Schedules, Crew, this will take me to the crew Gantt. On the left-hand side of this screen, we would see any unscheduled units that I have in my current year, 2026. All of my units are scheduled. That's what I expect to see at this point. On the right-hand side, we have some quick analytics. Forecasted harvest volume by product. I've got a quick look at unit readiness, again with those same colors, which I can see here. The yellow being not ready, green ready, blue active, purple complete, the same that I saw on the maps. What I am noticing when I look at my crew Gantt is that I've got a harvest unit coming up that's not ready in my lovely mustard yellow. Ryerson Meadow, it should be ready at this point. I'm not terribly comfortable with it, so what I want to do is remove it from the schedule, and I'll replace it with something else if I can find something else to replace it. So the first thing that I want to do, I can hover over the name, get a little bit of information, 17,000 cubes of wood planned, but selecting this menu option, I can delete the crew assignment. And I want to delete the links. I want to keep that gap in the schedule so that I can see further down the line what effect that's going to have on my planned deliveries. I'll delete that. As I said, now that it's unscheduled, it shows up in my list on the left-hand side, and I've got my gap here in the schedule. Let's take a look at the delivery schedule and see what that's done for me. I'm going to take the delivery schedule, I'm going to open it in a new tab. Whenever I talk to people about operations, I always recommend having multiple tabs open at any given time. The first screen that I come to is a tabular breakdown of my delivery schedule. A lot of numbers on the screen. I'll generate the latest schedule just to make sure that I'm looking at the latest numbers. But what I want is a quick view in graph form. So I'll go to my view selector, go to graph, and what I've got here, again, a bit of information on the screen. From left to right, these 3 bars that are together, we've got our planned volume, then our actual volume that's returned, either this is harvest actuals coming from a system like OpTracker or delivery actuals coming from Logger, and then our forecasted volume, which is that blend of my planned and actual volumes. The green dots are my minimum targets, the absolute bare minimum amount of wood I want to be sending to my destinations, to my customers, and then the orange dots above are my max. If I look at the next 3 months, March, April, May, I'm a little low there, but that's okay. I'm into my spring breakup. I expect to be low on the wood that I deliver at this time of the year. What I'm not happy with is how short I'm coming up in the summer, June, July, and August. And I know that that's because I took out the Ryerson Meadows harvest unit. So I do need to fill that in. I want to get those numbers back up. If I go back to my crew schedule, as I had said before, I don't have any units in the current strategic year, but I can change my filter, look at the 2027 strategic year, and see if I've got anything ready there. And a quick look based on my colors on the unit cards, I can see that my Bonnie River 1000 is ready to go. Jump back to 2026 for just a second. On the Ryerson Meadows, we can see it's about 81.5 hectares, a little over 200 cubic meters per hectare. And to compare that to my Bonnie River harvest unit, we're looking at, again, 81.5 hectares and a little over 200 cubic meters. So this unit should fill the gap that I've made here pretty well. If I click on that name in the unit card, I can dig into that unit a little bit more. I've got no assignments anywhere on the unit. I've got some quick information here, but I can go over to my product volumes and get an idea of the product mix that I have on this unit. Same information that I was seeing in the map. On the left hand of the screen, we have our FMS inventory. That's my projected inventory out of Woodstock that was integrated through Stratus. In the middle, I have my field estimate. This is the estimated inventory that came from our timber crews in Prism. So I have the most up-to-date inventory that I can have on this harvest unit, and this volume looks to be about what I'm looking for. Scheduling that unit, filling that gap, pretty straightforward. I'm just going to take that unit card, drop it on my schedule between Simpson Brook and Williamson Brook, and then close that gap by linking the units. I now have a harvest schedule that looks, everything's ready coming up. I'm a little more comfortable with it. I can dig into my analytics on the right, refresh those to make sure I'm looking at the latest numbers. This is my forecasted volume by product category, but I can dig in on that and see how I'm doing against my annual cut targets by product. Not exactly on, but close enough that I'm happy. We'll go back to my delivery schedule. I've kept it open in the other tab, and I'll generate that latest schedule again, and we'll see how that fixes things up for summer. And now I'm at a place where I'm much more comfortable going into the summer months. In my role as timber marketer, I want to take a look at one of my active units and see how it's doing and where the wood is going. So we'll go to our Seeley Lake 1003. It's active, it's in blue. I'm about 46% complete, which is about where I would expect to be at this point in the harvest schedule. But again, I can hover over it, get some information, quick information, the total planned volume just over 5,000 cubes, harvest volume a little under half, and that's coming from my harvest actuals. But again, I can click on that name. That's going to open my unit up. I can get a better look at my delivery actuals in my percent complete bar here on the left-hand side, information on the crew schedule. But what I'm curious about is where that wood is going. So I'll go over to my allocation plan tab. And that's going to bring up where I've got my products on this harvest unit allocated. This allocation plan can be built, it can be edited right on the screen unit by unit. I could do it by batch, but in this case, we created the allocation plan in Woodstock, and that was integrated through the system as well. I've got a couple of my products. Most of my volume on this unit is going to Southern Lumber, so I'm curious about what's going on at that destination. I'll dig into it a little bit more. I'll go to my destination screen. This brings up the list of my 3 destinations. Click on Southern Lumber Timber Products. The first screen I'll come up to is my calendar. If I had any shutdowns, delivery or operational shutdowns, I would see them here. But what I'm curious about is the incoming volume. And go to my incoming volume tab, a little bit busy with data. I'm really mostly curious about those 2 harvest units. So I'm going to take this pivot grid, open up my column chooser, and from here I can filter based on my harvest units. Grab my Bonnie River 1000 to see how it's scheduled, and we'll go to Sealy Lake 1003, clicking OK here, OK on the column chooser, and that takes us down to just the 2 harvest units I'm curious about. I can see where my Bonnie River shows up in the plan for the beginning of delivery for any wood coming to this particular destination, as well as the wood that's coming out of Sealy Lake. The plan volumes, the actuals coming out straight out of logger, and then again, that forecasted row combining the 2 to see how I'm looking to do going into the future and if I need to make any further adjustments. Now that the harvest schedule is set, our next step is to monitor harvest execution, and that we will do through AltTracker. I'll hand it back to you, Doug.
You saw the optimization plan, it's coming in. What you didn't see in there is that the optimization plan is actually producing an allocation schedule. So in terms of for every unit, where the wood is going to go, that allocation schedule got pushed through directly into Remsoft operations. So the allocation schedule is inherent. So that delivery schedule that Andrew was revising actually came from the optimization. So that was a key part. You also saw the adjustments to the blocks in real time in terms of Stratus, what Sandy was doing in terms of buffering that road or just changing that road and netting down the area. That got reflected and into the operational scheduling as well. So that's all kind of connected. And lastly, the work that Xander was showing in terms of the update in the inventory, that new inventory that came from the field through that work process is automatically in here too, which gets back to the scheduling. When you're scheduling with a better inventory, well, we assume the cruise was a good cruise, Xander. Did you do a good job? Yeah. So if it was a good cruise and the information is better, then you're going to get better predictions on that schedule and how it's going to play out, the timing and what you're going to produce and so forth. So that's that information. So that's an information flow, data accuracy, and those things. And that's kind of where it gets where it matters. What you didn't see in there, which will be evident this afternoon, is where are the actuals coming from. So that's a critical piece because the planning is one thing, but if you're working in an environment like that, you want to know where you're at. So what's being delivered or what's being cut. In this case, we don't have harvest actuals coming in because we don't have, in this particular scenario we're playing, we're not collecting the machine head information, but if you had that information, that could come directly in from your harvest actuals. The actuals in this case are coming from the load tickets, which is going to play out later on from logger through their e-dockets or e-tickets, whatever you want to call them. That's flowing into here. So as soon as we get a load registered across the scale, we know which unit, that automatically flows in and updates the harvesting schedule. So we know that those loads have been delivered against that particular operation. So again, it's this connected data flow in real time is what matters.